Recently, I've been working my way through the Yakuza series, and with every new game, it slowly becomes that much better to me. The combat, the story, and the over-the-top shenanigans continue to impress me with every new entry. You could give me the option of playing only one game series for an entire year, and these games would be one of my top picks without a doubt. That's because the Yakuza formula is one of the most confusing but inspiring things in modern gaming. While so many companies are spending millions of dollars creating these ever-expanding cash grabs with huge and empty open worlds, OTAKU, the creators of Yakuza, are doing the exact opposite. In most of the series, you end up seeing the same characters in the same few cities with the same kind of side stories and mini-games, yet none of this gets stale after almost a dozen games. The core gameplay is something that never goes away but is always molded in a way that fits what the player wants to see from the series each and every time. Even when they branch out to the realm of JRPGs, the spirit of what makes Yakuza games special never gets tossed out the window. So even when we do get major gameplay shifts and weird spin-offs, it never feels like we're playing something totally different than what we'd expect. It's because this series sticks so close to its roots that it continues to move further into the mainstream and generate tons of new fans. And while I'm not 100% caught up with the main series as of yet, I couldn't help but try out one of the newest spin-off games in the series. Well, at least a remake of a classic. With the older Japanese setting and the samurai combat, this seemed like a perfect break from my grind through the series. So I said, let me see what my boy Kiryu, or at least what looks to be Kiryu, is getting himself into this time. Like a Dragon Ishin, uses many of the fan favorite characters, or at least their models, and gives them new names within this Edo period drama. Meaning that if you've played these games before, then you get a pretty good idea of what to expect from these guys. You got your big tough villains like Saigo, your friendly allies like Shintaro, and the usual goofballs like Soji. Or if you're used to the mainline games, these would be Ryuji, Date, and everyone's favorite Majima. They even have that one dude who likes spying on everybody and probably knows your address by heart. So instead of us having Kiryu to play as, we instead get to see the story of Sakamoto Ryoma, a ronin from Tosa who is on a revenge quest to find the person who killed his adoptive father. This leads him to going undercover in the city of Kyo, where he then becomes a member of the local police force. But of course, it wouldn't be right for this to be a Yakuza game if this police force wasn't filled with some scary and corrupt ass dudes. We get to see a lot of the dark dealings of these members, and the plot twists just keep rolling as we get to later parts of the story. Something that's interesting about this plot is how it ties into real world history. The story of the real Sakamoto Ryoma is apparently a household legend within Japan. He fought against the Tokugawa shogunate, the Bakufu, and the Shinsengumi, all of which are parts of Ishin. He fought for democracy and the modernization of Japan, which is something that a lot of people would agree with even more as time goes on. The developers didn't want to make this a completely historical game that was tied down to only the facts of what took place though. They created a story that hinged on Ryoma's life and his ideals while molding the situations and characters around that core part of the plot. So while you can see many similarities between what takes place here and what actually happened in real life, you can also enjoy the lighthearted and comical sections that are a staple to the series. Because I'm sure that historians can't confirm without a doubt that Ryoma had a brawl against some naked dudes in a bathhouse. If you're a longtime fan of the Yakuza games, or even just played a few of them, then you know exactly what to expect from the gameplay of Ishin. In between the lengthy cutscenes, we have the entire city of Kyo to explore, complete side quests, and build friendships. The usual things like singing karaoke and doing a bit of gambling are here to expand your playtime and give you extra bonuses. There's also some interesting features like the dungeons, where you can explore these mazes filled with enemies and unlock even more rewards. Some of which being these cards that give you an extra edge in battle. The trooper cards will hold things like health boosts and defensive buffs, and you can equip 4 of them to each stance you have available. Most of these will be regular enemies that you find on your journey, and you can recruit some of them after you kick their asses. But there are also some new cards that feature real life influencers that you may know and love, like Alex Mokala, who produces some of the best music out there. And then you also get the VTuber Nyanners, who is, well, she's an anime cat girl. It's a weird but fun addition, and they offer even more powerful help along your journey. When it comes to combat, you have a selection of 4 different combat styles that you unlock very early. You can wield a sword, a gun, and also a combination of both, which is always a good time. But hey, if weapons are not your style, you can always bare knuckle brawl anybody that you want. What I love about the combat system is that it rewards you for playing the way that you want to. Each style has these different colored orbs that you can use to upgrade your skills. But the white orbs can be used on any of the 4 styles. As you keep defeating enemies in a certain style, you'll gain more of that specific orb to help increase your strength, health, and combos. So even if it does seem silly to go in guns blazing, if that's really how you want to play the game, then it will support that 100%. Then whenever you do get some white orbs, throw those into anything else that you want and you'll never have to worry. Plus you can remove the orbs and place them back wherever, which is perfect when you feel the urge to switch up your gameplay. Personally, I felt like the sword by itself was the best option to focus on first. Since the story has sections where they force you into using your sword, it just made sense to have that be more powerful in case I run into any trouble. Plus, when it comes to playing defensively, I had a much easier time blocking attacks with the sword instead of trying to block a samurai with my bare hands. Although I can't lie and say that the Wild Dancer and Gunman styles weren't fun either, because in some fights I just stand there and start blasting off at my enemies, and I was surprised that it worked so well. Then when it came to Wild Dancer, that was fun to use when I just wanted to be extra. Flailing around, slicing, and shooting everyone is just as fun as it is stupid, but it worked really well when I was surrounded by groups of enemies. It reminded me of the breaker style that Majima could use in Yakuza 0. I had so much fun using that to do crowd control, but it didn't hurt with how much fun it was seeing him beat someone's ass while doing a windmill. So for combat, I have to say that it was a good amount of fun. But I will admit that it did feel like some of the bosses were cheating from time to time with them being able to shoot out magic attacks of their own, but still a great time nonetheless. After all the combat, it's good to have a way to cool down and kick back for a bit. In most Yakuza games, there tends to be a game mode that strays away from the normal story but has a decent amount of depth that sucks you in for at least a few hours. Like the Cabaret and the Real Estate Royale minigames from Yakuza 0. And I can't tell you how many hours I ended up wasting doing that, but I can tell you that I would do it again in a heartbeat. For those playing Ishin, that mode could be the dungeons since it's really fun to explore them for hours just defeating enemies and getting rewards. But for me, I had a much better time kicking back and growing vegetables on the farm with Haruka. Another Life is a relaxing mode where you can spend your time farming and helping a young woman pay off her debt. Here you can adopt some pets, you can cook, and even sell your crops to earn some money and items. And it's not super in-depth like some of the real estate and cabaret modes, but it was a great break away from the constant drama and fighting. Funny enough, I recently saw a trailer for the upcoming Yakuza 8 game, or Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and there's a new mode that looks exactly like Animal Crossing. So my dreams of making money, farming, and building a business might just be answered when that comes out. Until then, helping out Haruka will have to be enough for now. Other than that, what you end up getting here is an experience that lives up to what you expect from the series. The combat is rewarding and the stories are gripping while also being historic. Some may say that it's held back by trying to stick to real life events, but I appreciate them for taking a chance for something different. And it may not live up to being as goofy and unique as the more recent games, but it still has that Yakuza charm. With this being a remake of the original that was released on PS3 and PS4 as a Japan exclusive, we have a few differences that make this version stand out almost 10 years later. First being the most obvious, with a graphical overhaul that matches with the newer games in the series. They didn't need to do this since the old PS4 graphics weren't that bad anyway, but it's good to see that they put this extra amount of effort in. Before this came out, I heard plenty of fans say that all they wanted was a port and they would have been okay with the translated version. But the fact is that this series is so much more popular than it's ever been with the recent success of Yakuza 7 in the West. It used to be unheard of for these games to be on Xbox, and now the whole series can be found on Game Pass. Just in general, I think it's awesome that more people are getting into these games, and I'm grateful to the friends of mine who recommended it to me in the first place. It might still be a bit before I catch up with the rest of the games I haven't played in the series, but I'm so glad to be a Yakuza fan today. For Ishin, I say that this is a great way for people who have never heard of the series to get a taste for the action without jumping headfirst into the canon. And for the longtime fans, well, y'all been eating good for a while now with almost a new game being released every year. So even if you didn't like Ishin, there's at least one other game this year that came out that you might like. Either way, I think it's awesome to see that extra bit of effort being put in to create a much more refreshing experience for both old and new players. But let me know what you guys think about Like a Dragon Ishin. Did this live up to the hype for you? Should they have added more features in the remake? Or hell, is this even your first Yakuza game? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video.